Hey guys, Trevor with Shadow Systems. It's Technical Tuesday, and today we're going to talk about the lethal weapon technique. Okay, so we've had a few customer service calls, questions, issues, things, broken parts pop up that can be attributed to what we have jokingly called the lethal weapon. Okay, why do we call it that? Okay, well, so you may remember in the movie Lethal Weapon, there's a scene where Mel Gibson is unfortunately contemplating suicide, and he's got one round, and he locks the slide to the rear of his Beretta just like this, and he drops the single round in the chamber, and he lets the slide slam forward, and that's how he loads his gun. Ultimately, he doesn't commit suicide happily, but I think he does that a few other times at other points in the movie where a round gets dropped in. It's been a long time. The point is, that is actually not the way the extractor of at least this system is intended to operate. And I remember being admonished about this even when I was a kid shooting USPSA, and I was shooting a single stack 1911, and sometimes I would load my first round. I would want to top the gun off, and rather than chamber a round from a start mag, I would drop a round in the chamber, let the slide slam forward, and stick a mag in so I was fully loaded. And a lot of the guys that I shot with were like, hey man, stop doing that, you're going to break your extractor. Okay, well, the same is true with this system, and the truth is, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm not aware of any design out there that's intended to function that way. Okay, most semi-automatic firearms that have an articulating extractor like that, whether it's just got a natural bend to it like a 1911, or it's spring-loaded like one of these is, in any one of those cases, the intent is that the round goes underneath the extractor during chambering. So I think people have a perception that, you know, the slide picks up the round and then the whole thing slams forward and the extractor slams into the back of the round and that's how it grabs it. And that's not the case. It actually slides under the extractor on the way forward. Okay, so we'll actually try to do that. Let's try to do that as a little demo. So, all right, slide is to the rear. It's starting to move forward, and it picks up the round, and you should see at this moment that it's actually underneath the extractor, not in front of it. Let me check. Yeah. So as the breech comes closed, it's sliding under. Okay, so don't do the lethal weapon, please. And here's why. When that extractor comes slamming into the back of the round, it actually rotates further out than it is supposed to during a normal cycle of operations. So yes, the extractor is spring-loaded, and when the round is ejecting, it articulates outward a little bit. Same when you're chambering around, it comes out a little tiny bit. But never at any point does it come all the way out far enough for the hook of the extractor to slip over the round. So that is over-rotating the extractor outward. Okay, why does that matter? Well, you know, that you have the extractor, and then right behind the extractor you have the extractor depressor plunger, which is basically a steel rod. Okay, it's totally uncompressible. Then you have a spring. Okay, that's what gives the spring force that returns it to its start point. And then you also have a polymer bearing. So if you can imagine this stack of three parts that's right behind the extractor, that polymer bearing has a little stick on it that protrudes into the spring a little bit, and that forms a stop. So when the extractor is rotating outward, ideally it stops at the correct point in its rotation. It stops against that polymer bearing. Okay? If you over-rotate the extractor, you actually end up compressing and deforming that polymer bearing a little bit. Is that a big deal? Not really, okay? But it does mean you will be kind of permanently altering how far out the extractor can rotate, okay? In my mind, the bigger reason is if you do it enough, you will break your extractor. So even though your extractor, if you look at it, it has a nice little chamfer on the front of it, nice little kind of curve, it's not there to allow this process to happen. That's not why that's there, okay? So it is never intended to come slamming into the back of a round and have to move out of the way in a few thousandths of an inch because that will eventually break your extractor, okay? You know, one of the most telltale signs really that this is not the way it's supposed to operate is you can shoot one of these guns 10,000 rounds, and you'll never see a brass mark on that chamfer. Like you'll never, it just doesn't ever hit that way. You do this one time and you can see a whole bunch of brass right there on that curvature on the front of the extractor. You just know that it's not supposed to be there, okay? Okay, so that's the lethal weapon. We really don't recommend you do that. The only time you're allowed to do that is if you're gonna make a really cool video like that guy on Instagram the other day who did this and got it right in the chamber, bow! Took the target out, pretty cool. That was cool, but other than that, I wouldn't do it. I mean, obviously in an emergency situation and you've only got one round and the hordes of bad guys are coming and you drop the round and bow. Yeah, okay, that'll work. All right, you can do that. But the rest of the time, let the system operate the way it was designed, okay? Let that, if you need to just top your gun off, load one round, like let's say you've got your carry mag and you wanna you know, keep those rounds in there and not ever cycle the top round. Some guys want to keep it that way. Just grab a start mag. You know, just have some old magazine that you use to load that first round, and then you pick up the mag that you actually carry and you leave the start mag somewhere else. Okay. So, hope that was helpful. Again, we just want to make sure that your gun stays operational and that you're not having to send it back or something or breaking parts. So that's the story behind this. As always, if you have questions, give us a shout. We love talking to customers, and we will see you next week for another Technical Tuesday. Thank you.